Good evening and welcome to Jurassic News. I am Marco Makes, your host for tonight. Pandemonium has arisen this morning. Reports of a brand new wave of figures are erupting from within the community. Let's go live on location and find out what all this fuss is about. We are joined by our correspondent who is live on the scene right now. Nate, how are things looking over there?
Yeah, Marco, I'm reporting live on the scene, and here we have an interesting bystander here, and he has some thoughts on the new figures. Sir, what do you think about these new figures that were revealed just this morning?
Yo, man, I just woke up from a huge nap because, I was tired because, I was watching GTA 5 online games, and then all these new Jurassic Park toys came out, and I'm like, oh, some of these look good.
Thank you for your input on the matter. Let's take a look now at what the rest of the community thinks about these new figures.
Oh man! I woke up this morning, I was bombarded by Jurassic World Rebirth. Godliness! So much merch is coming out this year, I cannot contain my excitement. Oh my gosh!
Well, I just woke up this morning, getting ready for work, and, happened to check my phone, so all these figures were announced, and, I'm a little excited, but, a little fearful for how my bank account's gonna look after this, because, financial debt, here we come, baby!
There were figures announced?
Man, I woke up this morning, there was all this news about the Jurassic World Rebirth figures and vehicles that have been released. But has anyone seen my wife? Becky? If you're out there, call me, okay, honey? We're still looking for you.
I ain't never heard of a Jurassic World Rebirth, but man, I can tell you, I birthed something in the bathroom last night. That toilet has been destroyed. I mean, you could make a movie about that. But seriously, if you see my wife, or if you get any details about her whereabouts, let me know ASAP. I'm so worried.
Interesting takes from the community here. Now it's back to you in the studio, Marco. This is Nate Creates, signing out.
Thank you very much, Nate. Now here's Bradley with the weather. How are things looking like, Bradley?
Thank you, Marco. As you can see clearly on the blue screen behind me, there's a massive high-pressure system of dinosaurs moving in a northwesterly direction. However, as we've seen with previous dino systems, it is lopsided, so the distribution may not be even. Some regions may be hit with a deluge of dinosaurs, but in other places we might just see a light sprinkling of troodons. Back to you, Marco.
Now I think it's time to have a look at these figures. Well, where do we start? I think we should start by saying that this video will be split in two sections. The first section will be about all the new figures and just covering pretty much all the news about them. While the other segment, I'm just going to delve into my own thoughts and opinions. So just in case you're not interested about that last part, you can always feel free to just watch the news part and then click away. So without further ado, let's start looking at these figures. Well, I guess it only makes sense to have a look at some listings that have been put up on smithstoys.com. So pretty much all of the flagship toys for Rebirth have shown up on Smith's Toys website. We get some new pictures from different angles of the toys that we've seen already, but I think we should start chronologically and just work our way down this list. So the first item in this list is the exclusive Jurassic World Rebirth Roaring Dinosaur Mask Spinosaurus. I hope these prices won't confuse you. These are British pound prices. Oh my goodness, it seems like everything's trying to not make me record today. There's seagulls being really noisy, and there's an aeroplane going by. What the heck's going on? Anyway, we've seen plenty of these types of masks before, released for the films and for Camp Cretaceous. This is your standard role-playing mask. It says roaring, so I'm guessing it has some sort of electronics going on. It activates the sound when you open the jaw and stuff like that. I should probably get one to scare the seagulls away. Now next is the Jurassic World Rebirth launch and battle vehicle set that we've seen in a previous video. We get to see different pictures and different angles, and we get a good look at that raptor too. What's really cool is that we get an in-box view of this thing too. And my goodness, altogether, it just looks really exciting. Definitely quite appealing. Then we have the Jurassic World Rebirth Tail Thrasher Dinosaur Action Figure Spinosaurus. We've had a good look at this already, but I just wanted to point out the price for this thing, man. It is pretty expensive for what it is. I'm not sure if that's to do with tariffs or anything, but it's affecting the prices here in England as well. And yeah, that is not very good. Like 55 quid. That is like $74. All right, steady on, Marco. Keep your own thoughts to yourself. Just save them for later, man. There's a whole segment dedicated to that later on. Okay, fine. Then we have the Jurassic World Rebirth Wild Raw Dinosaur Action Figure Utahraptor. I know a lot of people have been super excited about this one, and seeing a Utahraptor join the line is really cool. We've had Utahraptors before in the Kenner line, and it's nice to see a very feathery one this time. In the same sort of line, so the Wild Raw ones, we have a Maiasaura as well, and the colors on this thing look really nice. Then we have the Wild Raw Nasutoceratops, which we've seen before. Various pictures have already been released of this one. But also we have the EO Triceratops. I'm unsure if this will show up in the film or not, or if it's just Triceratops in the film, if there even is one. I'm not sure. If you know, let me know in the comment section down below. Next is the Tyrannotitan. But what jumps at me is the difference in style between the Rebirth figures that are in the film and this dinosaur here, which is clearly designed by Mattel designers. I think there's quite a difference in style. Oh, I said I think. I should save these thoughts for later. It's nice to see some variation in the paintwork, like the orange on the throat and on the face, but also paint going all the way down the tail. Next, we have the Bite and Blast dinosaur action figure Mosasaurus. We've seen plenty of this before. It's the mosasaur figure that spits out figures. Then we have the Wild Raw Baryonyx, and if you know me, you know that Baryonyx is my favorite dinosaur. And I gotta say, the sculpt work on this looks pretty good. It looks better than some of the previous ones released. Oh my god, there's another ruddy aeroplane. What I was going to say is that this Baryonyx has separately molded and casted and inserted teeth, so they look nice and sharp and crisp. I'm pretty sure this aeroplane is just going round and round, by the way. It's a really sunny day here in England, and people are just everywhere, and the seagulls are having great fun, and we're right by the beach too, so there's plenty of life, which unfortunately means a lot of noise, which makes recording quite difficult. How dare they have fun. We have another look at the aerial ambush dinosaur action figure Quetzalcoatlus, which we've seen before, and the Rebirth Power Devour dinosaur action figure T-Rex. Again, it's the one that we've seen before with the glowing mouth. Now we do have another Rex as well, but we'll have a look at that later. Then we have the Super Colossal Mosasaurus, which looks amazing. The paintwork looks really good, and the teeth again are separate pieces. And they've also added the second row of teeth inside the mouth. Yep, those are separate pieces too. Very, very nice attention to detail. There's that Rage and Raw Dinosaur Mask T-Rex, the one that was displayed at the New York Toy Fair. And then we have a gigantic Thrasher Chilantesauro. Did they forget an S? I'm guessing they forgot an S. I just had to wait another minute or so for the aeroplane to go by again. Oh, there's Dolores again. We had a good look at that one before. And then we have the Purosaurus, which is, oh my goodness. The sculpt on that looks really, really cool. We have a few Lego sets as well. The Off-Road Escape set, sorry, the Raptor Off-Road Escape set, then the T-Rex River Escape set, and the Raptor and Titanosaur Tracking Mission, which I'm guessing are based on some scenes in the film, although Lego aren't really that strict to what happens in the films, so they might not be entirely accurate to what we see in the movie. Hey, we have some imposters right here. Those aren't part of the new line. Go away, Raysuchus and Zungaripterus. Say hello to Innistransevia. This one's brand new, and it's good to see something that isn't just dinosaur related. Then we have the Achillobeta, and this is definitely not what I expected for an Achillobeta. A lot of people are loving this one. Then we have a reworked Zuniceratops, which looks quite a bit chunkier than the previous version. And then we have a Nano Tyrannus, which is an interesting choice because a lot of paleontologists think that that was just a juvenile Tyrannosaurus. Then there's a brand new Herrerasaurus as well. I'm not sure if it's just a repaint or a completely new figure, but there's a few species that we haven't seen before, like the Edmontonia and the Yanni. But we have a marine reptile as well, the Torvoneustus. Is that how you say it? We have another Proceratosaurus, which I think is just a repaint, but we have a pterosaur as well, a really cool one. Scioptera, I think that's how you pronounce it. Man, a lot of these species are really obscure. Then we have the Bipiaosaurus. Not sure how you pronounce that. I've heard of it before in loads of dinosaur books, but I never really knew how to pronounce it. So we have the Mincaria. I really like the look of this. It looks like a little hadrosaur and I like it. Oh, and then we have the Archaeornithomimus. That was a name dropped in Jurassic World, and I think it was meant to be a bit more like similar to Gallimimus or something like that in looks. And here comes the interesting part for me. The human and dinosaur sets. We have the Dr. Loomis and Pteranodon, and look, that Pteranodon can bend its wings and actually stand and look like it's walking. It's really cool. And we get a good look at Dr. Loomis's figure as well. And my goodness, these sets are they just scratch that itch for me, man. We have a look at Zora Bennett and Velociraptor. I think it's the same raptor that is in that vehicle set. And here's Scarlett Johansson's character right here. What's really, really cool about these figures is that they have backpacks that can open up and you can store some stuff in them. I think some of their weapons even break apart so you can store them. That's probably in another set. I'm not sure if that happens on these ones. Then we have a 2-pack with Duncan and the Velociraptor. And look at this. This is the other Velociraptor. They were trying to hide that from us for so long, but here it is. It's pretty much very similar to that male raptor there that we've seen before, but orange with dark stripes or black stripes. It looks very interesting. Also, because these are digital renders, my goodness, look at that. Look at that. Look at the polygons there. And then we have another 2-pack with Reuben and the Parasaurolophus. And this is, I think, a new Parasaurolophus with a Dominion head. And it just looks really appealing to me. This stuff looks fantastic. And the prices are really decent too. Now here's some things that aren't on Smith's Toys website. These, for example, I found on Amazon. There's those Micro Adventures sets, which I'm a big fan of. They remind me a lot of the Micro Machines and Polly Pockets and all that stuff. And we have a lot of those figures that were in Smith's Toys. Here, we get to actually see a few of them in the box. Now let's have a look at some pictures that have been circulating on Instagram. I can't find any listings around in England for these, so these are probably going to be available in the US or somewhere else, I'm not sure. Now this one I am really excited about. It's called the Spinosaurus Danger Set, and there's a Spinosaurus that doesn't seem to be electronic. It's just a basic Spinosaurus, which, oh my goodness, it looks really good. And you get 2 human action figures. We have Zora Bennett and Dr. Loomis with some weapons and a crate, and it looks great. See, yeah, this is where the weapon comes apart. I didn't make it up, I swear. It was right here, I saw this. I didn't really find any credits for those pictures, but I think they're for listings anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But for these new pictures right here, we can all thank Jurassic_Geek25, because they have found a lab lockdown Tyrannosaurus Rex in the wild. Wow. This thing is a bit like the Extreme Chomping Rex, but like the Rebirth version of it. And oh, this looks really cool. Look at that. It's definitely a different color from the other T-Rex that we've seen before, so it makes me think, are there going to be multiple T-Rexes in the film? Look at the sculpt on that thing. Look at the detail, man. Oh, I'm showing some emotion and some opinions. Am I allowed to be excited right now, or shall I be excited later? Then we have a listing name. for the D-Rex, and this thing is called Distortus Rex. Now, I'm not sure why it says Jurassic World Renaissance. I think that's probably a translation error, or maybe it's a French title or something like that. I'm not sure. Wouldn't that be Le Monde Jurassique Renaissance figurine? Okay, stop. That's insensitive. But yeah, Distortus Rex. I'll talk about that later on. Also, €60, $68 or something like that. Almost $70. What? But we also get a very, very clear picture of the Distortus Rex. Of the toy itself. I'm not sure if I'm allowed or if Mattel's going to come and hunt me down and close my channel or anything. So I'm just going to show a very, very quick flash of it, just in case. If you want, you can slow the video down and pause it. But I didn't tell you that. No, I don't. I certainly don't have the picture. And with that, I think that's all the Rebirth stuff. Now we can move on to some Hammond collection reveals. There was a new Beyond the Gates episode, and a lot of people were just assuming it was going to be a Hammond collection reveal, but no, it was all about the Rebirth toys, which is a little bit odd. But these... You done? Thank you. But these pictures were released instead. So we have a Lost World Velociraptor revealed. This is what it looks like, and this is it in the box. There's also a Stygimoloch, which looks like this. We've also got a picture of the Stegosaurus in the box as well, and a new Troodon Hammond collection figure too. And with that, you can have a look at all the pictures there. You can pause the video, and I think we can move on to my thoughts and opinions segment. So if you just wanted to look at the brand new stuff, I recommend you click away, because now I'm gonna give my own opinions. Yay! So if you're easily offended or triggered by criticism, critiques and that kind of stuff, I really recommend you leave the video. The first part of the video is for you. This other part of the video is for everyone else. What you're going to be seeing here is kind of a closer look at the figures and the packaging, and I'm going to pepper here and there some opinions from the community and my own thoughts and observations. So let's talk about some messages that I received about those Rebirth Raptors. I've had probably like 5 or 6 messages from friends and some random followers that wanted to let me know that they thought that the raptors looked a little bit weird in terms of proportion. They thought the heads looked a little big, but mainly that the necks looked really long. Now, after having had a look at the figures, I can see what they mean. I think it's because they shrunk down the bodies a little bit, the head and the neck look a bit long. I think it's probably to reduce packaging size, or maybe just to take up less space inside of the packaging. They just shrunk the body down a little bit, but just kept the head and the neck big for some reason. I'm not sure. I can see what these guys mean. They do look a little odd proportions wise, but for the main line, I think a lot of things have looked disproportionate. I mean, if we look at the original jumping raptors, the feet on those were just massive. Although they did have some really nice long tails. I really like that. I'm almost considering getting one of those jumping raptors and just modifying it a bit so it can have posable legs with smaller feet. Just for my own amusement, really, I guess. But yeah, let's not pretend that these figures have always been perfect proportions wise. This is not out of the realm, I think, of what Mattel has provided us before with the kids toy line, so I'm not too fussed about that, to be honest. Also, since the release of Hammond collection, I've been a bit less picky about the main line and focused more on the Hammond collection, but even with that, the mainline stuff has been getting better anyway, in certain aspects, that is, not everything obviously, with the new sharp teeth and some smaller feet as well, so I didn't really need to focus on the mainline much. But yeah, the necks do look a little long on these, especially on that picture of the raptor in the box, and I think the way it's posed kind of accentuates that a bit. By the way, I'm probably going to provide some edited pictures of what I think the figures might look like if they were a little bit more proportionate, or if they were a bit more close to screen accurate with the Hammond collection. I'm just going to provide some edited pictures just for the fun of it, really, just to have a little bit of a comparison. There's no malice in this at all. It's just for curiosity's sake. It all depends on how editing Marco is feeling at the moment. If he's feeling tired or sick of all of this, then he'll probably not put up any edited pictures. But if he has, hey, let's all say thanks to me, future me. Now, what else were we going to talk about? Let's have a look. What I think would be ideal, since this is the first time they're going to be exposed to these new species, these creatures, which were actually real animals, they should probably be depicted in a somewhat accurate manner. I'm not saying they can't look cartoony or anything, but that they have their quirks that they had in real life, and that they don't look like generic dinosaur toy kind of thing. Like, what I'm saying is that because they are so niche, I don't want Mattel to use that as an excuse to go crazy with the designs. Yeah, I know this is kids' toys for a franchise and everything, but I just personally think it would be nice if they had somewhat of an educational purpose to them as well. Obviously, this is not an ideal world, and it's still fine. It's just a little thought, really. Again, it's totally fine. But I will say that I am personally not a fan of that Acrylic. I personally am not a fan of it because it doesn't look like an Acrylic to me, and it's extremely stylized, and it doesn't look like it belongs in the Jurassic Park universe. If I was a designer with a Jurassic license, I would design something that looks like it belongs to a Jurassic Park and Jurassic World universe. Again, Mattel is just flexing their muscles and designing whatever the heck they want, however the heck they want, with these random dinosaur species that haven't been in the Jurassic Park universe. That could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, that's up to you to decide. But personally, I just don't like the way it looks. If I was to design this, I'd probably make it look a bit more like this. A bit more like a Jurassic Park raptor. But if I wanted to make it look a little bit different, I'd probably add more feathers to it. And add some educational value to it. Another thing I got messages about was the lab lockdown T-Rex, and some people say that it looks a little bit compressed lengthways. It looks like a pug T-Rex, someone said. Yeah, it does look a little bit squished, but I think a lot of it has to do with the way it's posed. Also, the size of the head is a little bit big. Again, it's the main line, and some proportions are a bit funny, but I think there is an actual reason behind that. I'll get into it just after this. I think it still looks really good. But yeah, compared to the bigger electronic T-Rex, it does seem somewhat squished a little bit. But regardless, I am really still excited about that. And I think I prefer it over the electronic one, because I'm not a fan of electronics in general anyway, in toys. It's just my personal preference. And it just reminds me a little bit of the Extreme Chomping Rex. Just an updated version of it. Now, going back to the big head and stuff, I'm pretty sure Mattel based the sculpt on this particular picture right here, which is an official image of the T-Rex. It's not the render from the film. It's just an artist's impression of it. It's official. Regardless if it has some AI things in it or not, which some people believe it does. Some proportions are just really off with this picture, and I think Mattel just used it as reference, therefore the heads are a bit big. I'm not blaming Mattel at all. If that's the material they were given, then it makes sense for them to use it as reference. Also, Mattel does tend to make bigger heads in general anyway, depending on action features. Like if the Rex is supposed to hold figures in its mouth, then the head will be bigger. I mean, look at the Mosasaurus, for example. About the electronic Rex with the glowing mouth, I find that really odd. And some people are speculating that the T-Rex breathes fire because of it. That's just absurd, and I really hope that's not the case. I don't want dragons in a Jurassic Park film. Talking about absurd, yeah, that Distortus Rex name is just, for me, personally, I think it's just incredibly silly. It just sounds cringy, and don't get me wrong, the Indominus Rex and Indoraptor are cringy. Even Jurassic World in the film, they are aware that it sounds cringy. Like when Owen says Indominus Rex, you know, they're aware of it. And that's quite meta, and I appreciate that. But even then, those names sort of border on the line of cringy cool, if that makes sense. But it makes sense to me that scientists that designed the creature would give it a scientific name. But with this new one, it's supposed to be a mutation, an accidental one, as mutations are. And it just seems really odd to me that the scientists would give it a scientific name, and it's not even a good one. I could be a lot more rude about my opinion about this name, but I'm not going to on YouTube. I just don't like it at all, and it makes me a little worried about the film. I really hope they don't use that name in the film, and it's just a name given to the toy for merchandise or whatever. It would be cool if they refer to it as the mutant. That gives it a bit more of a mysterious feel to it. A bit more dangerous as well. Giving it a bit more of a vague name like this sounds cooler, and it definitely sounds a little bit more dangerous. But if you give it the name Distortus Rex, it just doesn't sound threatening at all. Okay, so now we can move on to the Hammond collection. Right, so where do I start? I think we should probably start with the Velociraptor. So the first glimpse that we've all had of the Lost World Hammond Collection Velociraptor was in the background of the Hammond Collection Spinosaurus image released a few days ago. And since it's in the background, it is very, very blurry. A lot of people shared their first impressions just based on that blurry picture, and if they're allowed to, then I think I'm allowed to share my first impression with that too. Now what they said was that it looked amazing, and it looked like it had an accurate head sculpt. I don't know how they could tell that from that blurry picture. So my first impression to that was, this raptor looks a little bit too red. Obviously, that's a first impression, and it can always change depending on the final version. This is just probably a prototype, and it's in the background anyway, so after that blurry picture, we actually got a good look at the official pictures. So here they are. You've already seen them because I already showed them earlier, but thanks for sticking around anyway to this segment of the video. So, first impressions with this is that it still looks a little bit off color-wise. It still does look a little bit too much on the red side of orange, and the body sculpt looks the same as the Jurassic World ones, which, you know, is expected. I guess it's cheaper to reuse body sculpts than sculpt completely new ones for raptors. Some people say that the feet are Atrociraptor feet, but the thing I don't understand is, why does the head present the crests on the snout? They're not as obvious as some other ones like on Delta, but on the actual one in the film, there shouldn't be any crests. It's pretty smooth, and this looks to be a completely brand new head sculpt, so I'm really confused as to why they wouldn't make one without the crests on the snout. Why make a completely new sculpt and still keep the crests when they could have gotten cheaper and just used Delta's head if they wanted to keep the crests? But this new head sculpt, if it didn't have the crests, then they could just use that for the Jurassic Park one, because Jurassic Park raptors and Lost World raptors don't have crests on the snout. And I don't want to make replacement heads. All the time, these things should be right from the start, especially if they're collector grade figures, as they are advertised. Mattel has even gone ahead and rebranded or marketed these with a brand new label called True Effects. They're really trying to push these things as being screen accurate. It's really hard to understand what True Effects really means, but it's just a way for them to say, hey, this thing is different, this thing is more special. But personally, I would rather they didn't use the resources that they have been using into marketing these things, trying to tell people that these things are good, but actually use the resources to actually make the figures collector worthy, make them screen accurate, put that little bit extra effort into it to match the on-screen version, instead of putting a True Effects label on it. Again, with those cheap jaw hinges, I've seen plenty of much cheaper dollar store dinosaur toys with a custom hinge. The custom hinge is what Mattel used to use previously on older dinosaur figures like the Velociraptors, but they've since transitioned to a cheaper alternative that just makes it look goofy. The pivot point is in the wrong spot, and there's always something a little bit off looking when you pose the raptor with an open mouth. Also, since this is a generic hinge they use, it's the same exact ones that they use in the knees and so on, the designers are forced to change the shape of the jaw in order to incorporate that jaw hinge, which makes it less screen accurate as well. They used to have the custom jaw hinges on the main line, the kids' toys, but now they've completely transitioned the Hammond collection and the mainline toys to this type of jaw hinge. And I really think it's totally fine to have it on the kids' mainline version, but for a collector grade figure, they shouldn't compromise on screen accuracy with a cheap alternative, especially if they're labeling these as True Effects, premium, whatever that means. Again, I don't want Mattel to tell me that these are premium figures. I'd like to be able to see that for myself when they actually incorporate good jaw hinges and stuff like that. Also, it seems like they're continuing to draw the pupils over the glass eyes on the small figures, which completely defeats the purpose of having glass eyes in the first place. How am I not supposed to lose my temper with these birds? The whole point of having glass eyes is that the pupil is recessed behind the glass bit, and when you tilt the figure, it looks like the eye is following you. I don't like to have to repeat myself all these times. Please, Mattel, you've listened to the community before, you've shrunken the size of the feet, made the tails a bit longer, and just gotten the proportions generally a little bit better than the previous versions. So please, these issues need fixing too. Some people have different standards, but I think for a collector's line, these issues need to be addressed. If they care, which they say that they do, or it seems like they do occasionally, they shouldn't just listen to all of the yes men that just lap up everything and are happy with every single decision that Mattel takes. If they listen to criticism like this, which they have in the past, there is always room for growth. That's how you get better at things. This Lost World Raptor is a much needed improvement from the first versions of the Hammond Collection Raptors. I can't even believe those things were even designed and made, and it's definitely better than the Amber Collection version because that was just a repainted blue figure. Let's take a look at the box art, specifically the picture in the front. Now that looks quite familiar. A lot of people realized that it's a Jurassic Park 3 Raptor maquette picture, but they just kind of drew over it to make it look like a Lost World Raptor. I don't understand why they did that, because there's plenty of Lost World Raptor maquette images and stuff. That's just very, very strange. Even with the Stegosaurus box art, they decided it was a good idea to take a Jurassic World Stegosaurus and recolor it to somewhat match the Stegosaurus from the Lost World. I don't understand, because there's plenty of maquette pictures of the Stegosaurus from the Lost World. And I guarantee you fans would rather have pictures of beautiful Stan Winston maquettes rather than a shoddy Photoshop edit. And talking about shoddy Photoshop edits, let's look at the Troodon one. The edit on the front of the box is... I'm just lost for words. They took a Jurassic Park 3 male raptor maquette image and photoshopped some bigger quills on it and a dead eye and just slightly changed the color a little bit. And for the biggest toy company in the world, I think we would all expect better than this. may I remind you, these are premium True Effects figures for collectors. And that brings me into talking about the Troodon. What about this Troodon is true effects? What is this Troodon true to? Because it doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. It doesn't look like the Telltale game Jurassic Park Troodon. It doesn't look like the Jurassic World Evolution one. They just came up with an amalgamation of different designs. I preferred the prototype picture of this because it somewhat color-wise looked a bit more like the one in the game. But in this final version, they made it green. They probably made it green to sort of add a little bit of the Jurassic World live show Troodon into it. Again, I'm trying to understand their design process. As a designer, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm guessing they didn't get the rights to do a replica of the Jurassic Park, the game Troodon. They have access to the evolution thing, so to me, it just seems like a stylistic decision of the Mattel designers to go ahead this way. I don't know about you, but as a fan, I would prefer to have a faithful representation of the Troodon from the Jurassic Park, the game, than a weird Frankenstein monster amalgamation of loads of different designs. If that even is the case, if it's just their own interpretation of a Troodon, I just don't want that as a fan. Stick to the source material. Otherwise, what's the point of even having the Jurassic Park license? Let's talk about that Stygimoloch. I think this is probably the best looking one out of the three that have been revealed. The paintwork on it looks really, really nice. Sculpt work, again, looks really faithful to what we see on screen. I just hope the hips aren't too wide, because they tend to make wide hips on these smaller figures. Smaller figures in general by Mattel tend to get the shorter end of the stick, which is quite unfortunate. But yeah, the Stygimoloch definitely looks like the best one out of the three. It doesn't mean that there's things on it that I wouldn't change. For example, the eyes, they're straight up red with a round pupil, but the one in the film has got brown eyes, and the pupil is quite different from what you might think. It's actually got a goat's eye pretty much. The pupil is somewhat of a horizontal slit. It would have been nice if they paid enough attention to detail where they would recreate that. I would be seriously impressed if they did that. But after they added a raptor vertical slit pupil to a baby Triceratops, my hopes aren't that high. Again, the jaw is that cheap kind that we've seen before, like on the Ankylosaur. I did a video showing how they could rectify this design choice. It's just a very little change that doesn't require that much extra effort at all in the design process, but it just doesn't seem like they're interested in fixing these jaws at all. I was just editing the video and I noticed another little detail that Mattel missed, and the Stygimoloch in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom has a longer claw on the outside of the foot, a bit like the one on a cassowary. But yeah, the Stygimoloch does look pretty good, especially for a small figure. If I was to compare the Pachycephalosaurus with the Stygimoloch, this Stygimoloch would look so much better than that Pachycephalosaur. Let's end on a positive note. That was quite a positive note, and I'd like to add another positive note, and that is that I'm really excited about that new Spinosaurus and the Stegosaurus. They look genuinely really good. I am exhausted. I think I'm going to end it here. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around to the very end and listening to my thoughts. And I hope you have a lovely day. Bye-bye.